Call this meeting to order, the Board of Franklin County Commissioners, Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, 8:30. Have a roll call.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Present.
Commissioner Harris?
Present.
Chair Dunn?
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson?
Present.
Commissioner Waymire?
Present.
Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, justice for all.
Since we don't have any minister today, I think it'd be appropriate if we just have a moment of silence for all the loss of lives out down in Texas and around the country this last weekend. Please bow for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Correspondence, Derek?
No, sir.
Any public comment this morning? Okay. And the consent agenda, we have claim vouchers in the amount of $150,722.72. Tax change orders of a minus $43.52. Payroll in the amount of $1,246,747.98. And the commission meeting minutes for May 25th, 2022. Fair motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion approved.
Second.
Shannon?
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Chair Dunn?
Thank you. Okay, the first order of business is discuss the ongoing viability of the Franklin County Juvenile Detention Center. Derek?
Thanks, Roy. We had an extensive discussion about this last week, and so I'm not inclined to get fully back into the weeds on it. What prompted this entire topic was we are seeing a declining number of juveniles being housed in our juvenile detention center. We believe that is due to changes to the Juvenile Justice Code. You heard from Brandon Jones last week, who told you firsthand that, the changes to that code kind of tie his hands. He doesn't anticipate any changes in the foreseeable future that would reverse this course that we're on. The trends in our numbers there's nothing that we've seen anyway that would lead us to believe that the trend is going to reverse. And so here we are. You heard from Dr. Cobbs, superintendent of USD 290, who I don't want to put words in his mouth, but effectively said that, they have solutions in place should the day school program go away, that it's not going to negatively impact USD 290, said that while he wouldn't take their kids, he would be willing to work with the other superintendents in the district so that they could put solutions in place. And Janet and Ken did a great job of walking you through the financials. And it's hard to project, and I said this over and over last week, we don't know exactly what the potential savings would be because we don't know how many juveniles we're going to house, but we have averages. We have projections. We know what it would cost at this point in time to farm out to surrounding JDCs. Those numbers are subject to change, but we've been given no indication that they will change. And we figured our transportation costs to get kids there. I think worst case scenario, if we get more juveniles than we're anticipating and costs go up, we could be looking at a savings of $350-ish $1,000. If numbers are closer to what we project, that could be up near $500,000. So you're looking at somewhere between $350,000 and $500,000 in annual savings should you decide to go this route. We have job opportunities available for the employees that currently work in the JDC. So we believe that we have landing spots that will keep their benefits intact, keep their retirements intact. While we've explored other uses of the facility, and last week you heard from Under Sheriff Laswell, you heard from Dustin Browning with Community Corrections. If the board were to go this route, I think it would probably be most prudent to just leave the facility largely as is for now, continue to do intake out of there because we're still utilizing a good chunk of that facility, and then just take some time to see what the trends, see if the trends are going to continue, which again, there's no data that we have that would indicate that it's not going to, and then just go from there. That is a very high overview of what we discussed. Have all of the team here. Janet would be willing to answer any financial questions. Dustin, Ken, Kyle, we're all here. So what questions do you have? What would you like to discuss?
I know I got hold of you after our meeting last week that out of all the discussion that we had, the one thing we didn't talk about is if we did move forward with this, what kind of a time frame we would be looking at.
Yeah, and I don't think we've pinpointed that. We're budgeted through the end of 2022. So we certainly have the budget authority to continue operating it through the end of this calendar year. I think that if, in discussing it with Ken and discussing it with Kyle, the sheriff, his employees, if we wanted to start that transition sooner, I'm of the belief we could certainly do that. Ken would tell you, or at least he's told me, that he's had conversations with Douglas County. They are ready to take our juveniles as we speak, which, again, based on numbers that are sent to me, or, one, maybe two, three during an extraordinary time. So it's not, it's not going to be a huge burden on them. So I would say any time between, the next couple of months, which with everything we've got going on, I don't know that that's realistic, but again, we're budgeted through the end of the year. So sometime before then.
I feel that you went at this the right way. I mean, you could have had this conversation a long time before now, but I'm glad you waited and really got a good grip on, not that it wasn't just something was going to happen in a 6-month period, that it is something that's happening, and feel very confident after the county attorney, even at budget time, we talked about it last year, and that also, yeah, I'd be totally in favor of doing it the way you brought it to us, that we still use the intake and keep the other just like it is for a while, just to see what's going to happen. Not invest a bunch of money to go one direction or another yet. I mean, our payments are going to stay the same no matter what we do. And then if we change the use of it and things should happen to go back the other way for some reason, then we'd be out of luck there too. So that's all I got to say.
Anybody else have anything to say?
I talked to Ken last week. We make a lot of decisions with our checkbook in this job. But this is a hard one because this affects people. But it's still bottom line. It's what, you gotta decide what's the best for the county. The people of the county who are paying for it is really what we have to decide, so.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I've told Ken this more times than I can. This isn't a fun conversation. I can name you any number of projects that I think are fantastic. Like, I love working with David on our future plans for the public works shop. I think that's fantastic. I like working on budgets because I like to get creative. I think that's fun. It's fulfilling. This isn't one of those things. And based on my discussions with the five of you, nobody wants to be here. Like, this isn't an enjoyable, but it would also be irresponsible of the five of you to not take a look at this because the numbers are the numbers, and that the data doesn't lie. Like, we know what our actual costs have been. We know what our actual juvenile count has been. You can easily factor a cost per night, which Janet and Ken have done for you. And provided our projections are anywhere close to what our historical averages have been, like, this would result in a significant savings to the taxpayers. I agree, Ian, that's not the only factor, but those numbers don't lie. And when you talk about people, we bring Kyle back up, bring the sheriff back up. We can talk about the vacancies we have in the jail right now. We will have job opportunities for those folks if they, want to explore those, so.
And I know I've talked to several people this last week who, and I said what we were thinking of possibly doing, and they're like, didn't we just pay for that though? It's not that old, is it? And I'm like, no, it's not. But things changed. The juvenile code changed and the numbers have changed, and not anything that we could have done anything about. Or unless we could foresee the future, we could not have known that we were here.
And it won't be an empty building now completely. It'll probably be underutilized for a minute until we can let the dust settle and make sure everything stays as we expect it to be. I imagine you'd have to develop new policies with the change, procedures, probably a lot of administrative work on the back end that isn't immediately obvious. So I see the wisdom of not doing it right away. I wouldn't be in favor of running to the end of the year just because it's a budgeted amount and it's not something we do anywhere else in the county, spend the money because it's budgeted, right? And I'm not suspecting you would. But in the off chance that, we have 5 openings in the jail and we have 6 people want to go work there, would absolutely be for taking that remaining budgeted money, funding a 6th position. There's so much attrition in that department or public works or wherever it is. If we do have, I'd certainly be open to that. Just no way the jail wouldn't be back down to that position by the end of the year. There's just so much attrition in that, or really across the county. So, but to use that money to take care of
You're not
the people who work there.
You're not talking about creating a new permanent position. You're talking about just while there's 6 people.
While there's 6 people
hypothetically,
funding that, if that were to happen, really kind of an outside chance anyways, but as many vacancies as we have, but just to make sure people are taken care of. And
yeah, no, I think that's a fair idea, and to be clear, Cold, and you effectively said this, but basically, my proposal or thought wouldn't be to wait till the end of the year, but I think that Janet and I are getting into critical budget time.
No,
so I think over the next 6 or 8 weeks, we're gonna have to find a way to get ARPA into this. We're still kind of trying to finalize unbudgeted pay increases and what that looks like. And so I think probably for the next couple of months, it's going to be tough. But once we have a proposed budget, then I think focus could shift towards potentially making this transition if it were something that the 5 of you wanted to do.
Yeah, we talked about this with all the principal parties last Wednesday for about 2.5 hours. I think everybody, gave us their best advice on the Juvenile Detention Center. And I think Derek just did an overview again to show where we're at now. And I got the input from our commissioners here this morning. And I think the proposal would read, if we want to go forward, is to make a motion to authorize the closure of the detention portion of the Franklin County Juvenile Detention Center. That means we're just gonna be closing the detention part. The rest will be available to continue use. And I think, like Cole said and Derek said, that might be better to do it sooner than later, but rather than waiting to the end of the budget season to go ahead and do it. So if anybody would like to add anything at this time, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to that effect to authorize the closure of the detention portion of the county's juvenile detention center.
With much regret, I will second it.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waymire,
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre,
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. I thank everybody here from Juvenile that's here this morning. I appreciate you coming here today, and I know it was a tough decision for us, because I know you put in a lot of hours over there at the detention center. Now we're gonna have to transition into a little different format, so we'll move forward. Next item up for business now is amend the boundaries of the 7th Precinct in the city of Ottawa, including the house located at 1200 West 7th Street, Ottawa.
Commissioners, as you know, we just received the word from the Kansas Supreme Court regarding redistricting, and we have received our maps from the state to what our boundary lines will look like for some of our districts. As we were reviewing those boundary lines, we found a discrepancy in our maps from what the state had when the city annexed this property at 1200 West 7th Street. It was not clear to us that that was in a different commission district than the rest of the 7th Precinct. And so that technically would create a new precinct, which would only have one house in it. And that's very difficult for us to account for. That's very difficult for that person to feel like their vote is safe and secure. That we have 2 registered voters there, and we want to make sure that they feel confident in voting, that they're accurately represented by their boundary lines. So this is one of the only places in the county where 3 commission districts come together right there at the intersection of K68 and the city limits of Ottawa. As you know, Lincoln Township would be Rod's commission district. If you go just to the north of 68, that's Ottawa Township, which would be Roy, and the 7th Precinct would be Colt. So when they move that boundary line for the city limits of Ottawa, it does not change the commission district line. That doesn't push that boundary line to be in Colt's commission district, then it still keeps it in Rod's commission district. And so thereby it would create a special ballot for those people where they would vote for the commission district that Rod holds and not the one Colt holds. There would never be another type of ballot that would work for those individuals where their vote would be anonymous still. So I've prepared a couple of things for you guys. The first map that you guys had in your packet was just a map of the land, kind of showing you where those 3 commission districts come together and how that one house that's in the yellow box just lies outside of the boundary lines of the first commission district. The second one is a floodplain map, and I think that is really important because I think that indicates that gives us a really good indication that even though the city could potentially grow that direction, they're not likely to build any more houses in that area just because of the extensive flooding that they get in that area. So you can see even on the even on the east side of Eisenhower Road, the area that's undeveloped is still has significant flooding. And so without a lot of work to raise that land up, you might potentially put one house in there or something, but you're probably not going to put a subdivision in there that would give us the numbers that would make a precinct worth it to put it in there. So, and this is the only precinct we have in Ottawa that's like this. If you look to the north, where Roy's Commission District is, if they expand any more in the first precinct, it would still be expanding out into Roy's. If you're on the fourth precinct, which is over on the east side where Ian's Commission District goes into the county, again, if the fourth precinct grows, then it would just expand further into Ian's Commission District. So I say all this to say, we really feel like if we move the boundary line for this one property, it would really create a good voting environment for these individuals that live at this property, where they can feel like their vote is safe and secure, and anonymous, which is really important. So we would recommend that you vote to move the commission district line for this one property. So then this property at 1200 West 7th Street would be in the 7th precinct and be in the 1st commission district instead of being in the 3rd commission district, 2nd commission district.
How long has that house been there?
The house has been there a long time, but it had been in the county for a long time. But with change in ownership and stuff, the new owners wanted to be annexed into the city of Ottawa. So the barn is not in the city limits of Ottawa, only the house is.
Yeah.
And I think they did that. I think I remember when they did that. I think they did it for utility purposes.
Yeah, I think so.
So it makes a lot of sense, but
Yeah.
who would have thought?
Yeah,
Talk
it's
about-
just, it's just in a weird place, and like I said, I don't think any other houses are going to be built out there. I mean, even if you look at the development that we could potentially have on the Crestview Nursing Home site, you know, even if they develop, even if that's developed, that's still in the city limits of Ottawa. That's always been in the city limits of Ottawa, and it would still be in the 1st commission district. So I don't really believe that there's, from looking at the maps, that there's anywhere that could grow to get to any significant number of people that would be in that precinct. So just moving this boundary for this one property, I think, makes the most sense.
It looks pretty logical to me to do it that way and not have a district with just one house.
And something that most people don't think about, when you create that new precinct, it creates 2 new precinct committee seats in the Republican Central Committee and 2 in the Democratic Committee. So there's only 2 registered voters in that house, but it would create 4 new seats, 2 Republican and 2 Democrat. I don't know how you slice that up and make that work, so.
I think we just need to go to the motion. Positive motion would be to add 1200 West 7th Street to the 7th precinct and move the boundary line of the 1st commission district to include this residence. So
Moved. Oh, second.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yeah.
Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yeah.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Now we have a bunch of revitalization properties for approval. Janet?
Okay, the city of Ottawa has sent me another list of neighborhood revitalization properties that have been reviewed by the committee. You can see the list there in the memo. There's 7 properties to be entered into the residential program and 4 properties to be entered into the residential remodel and 1 property for the commercial program. So as always, these have been approved by the committee. They believe that after the project is complete, they'll meet all the goals and objectives of the program, but they won't be entered into the program until the project's complete and verifications are made on that, so.
Pretty straightforward. Did the city set the rebate timeframe on these?
There are guidelines for the rebate that are in the program, and I work really closely with the city to make sure that, that all the guidelines are met and we get them entered into the program at a time. There is a little bit of a time window where we have to make some decisions. It's usually when a property is being completed around the December and January timeframe. We want people to get their full rebate and not enter them into the program before the project is complete. But sometimes there are circumstances where the city of Ottawa doesn't issue a final occupancy until maybe like March or April, but the project was complete in December and did get a final valuation as of January 1. So the city and then my office and then the appraiser's office work really closely together to get those all entered into the program.
The only concern that I've heard out there is that 95% for 10-year time frame. I've heard people question that amount of time, but that'd be up to the city, I would guess, to decide
That's
that.
part of their program, and what you have to remember, that's only on the incremental value. So if you had value that was on there before, we don't lose the existing value that was there. It's only on the new value. So and it's 95% of the tax on the new value. So we're still getting what we were getting before the project happened, but we're giving them the incentive on the additional value that's created. So if they hadn't done the project, the value wouldn't be there, and we wouldn't stand to get the additional tax revenue after the rebate period is over.
About 5 years ago, that term was increased, and it mirrors what some of the other towns in Kansas are doing. I think if you'd ask a couple of the builders doing infill housing, that people are asking to have houses built in parts of Ottawa. I never would have thought you'd build a new house
Right.
because of this program. So it is generous, I'll give you that, but I mean, it's incentivizing somebody to build a brand new house where I don't think anybody thought brand new houses would ever be built. So, and that house, you know, being infill, no new streets, really no new coverage for school districts, or, yeah, I mean, there's more people, obviously, that's person based, but area wise, no more infrastructure than it was already there. It was a realized expense for local government, regardless of whether a house is there or not. So it's pretty meaty part of the bone, having a house built in the old part of town. And in many cases, you're taking out a dilapidated structure. So we're seeing more houses built in my district in the old part of town than definitely ever. And think about it, big picture, if you replace 1% of the houses in town every year, your average house is going to be 100 years old. We still don't come near 1% housing replacement. So, I mean, if it's a 0.5%, your average house is going to eventually be 200 years old. So I wouldn't probably pull back. It is generous, but, you know, a good result also, so.
Like I said, we're not losing anything on what was there before. We're just giving up the part that's new for a time. And so when we looked at this a while back, and the average price of the homes that are being built on those lots are $150,000 to $200,000 homes. So we're not getting the tax on that for, you know, the 10-year period, but then we stand to gain quite a bit after that period is up.
If it was a new subdivision, it wouldn't qualify.
No.
Generally not, no.
Yeah, so, yeah, it is just infill. That's good.
Only if you had a tract in the old part of town
Yeah,
that was big
that's
enough
right.
to do a subdivision,
Yeah,
but I don't
yeah.
know. Maybe on East 7th, there
Yeah.
might be some of those
The,
fields.
the Lincoln,
The
the
one- the
Lincoln
old-
lot, the
yeah,
Lincoln
Lincoln
lot
lot.
Yeah,
was,
that's true.
a neighborhood revitalization project. So, and we do have a new subdivision going in over, on the east side of town on Funston Street. That looks like that project will probably be eligible for neighborhood revitalization, but,
And again, that's an area with a lot of older
Yep,
homes, though.
Yep.
Or manufactured homes.
I think there's value that's kind of impossible to measure or realize completely. You know, if you take a bad house out, a cancer house, right? That house next to it was never gonna sell for full value because who wants to live next to that? You pull that out and put something nice in, then you have a comparable price that'll, immediately bring up the valuation of the surrounding houses, and then just the reality, nobody wants to live. There's a quality of life improvement there too, but.
I think overall it's an excellent program, and it helps get these houses revitalized or these lots with a house on them. So I think that's a good program. So any other discussion on this? Positive motion, Reed, I make a motion to approve the proposed properties into the neighborhood revitalization program as each property meets the program's requirements.
Motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next item up for discussion is approving Pasture Guard HL chemical bid from Nutrien Solutions. Pat, you're gonna have to help me with that one. Nutrien? Nutrien, okay.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Reason I'm coming back in front of you on this chemical bid, obviously back on March the 30th, you guys approved the bids we had in-house. They have declared those null and void because costs have gone up. I'm lucky, that first bid they said was good for 30 days. I'm down to 7-day bid now, so it's kind of a spur of the moment deal. Where before in years past, whatever bids they gave me in the spring was good all year long. So if I had, say chemical A for $3 a gallon, and I quoted it for 500 gallons, I had it for $3 a gallon for 500 gallons. Well, as soon as I hit 501, it's a new bid. Well, those days are gone apparently, just kind of like everything else, unfortunately. So what we're up to now, we've had a mad rush. I didn't order any Pasture Guard earlier on the bid because I thought I had enough stock in-house already from previous, and I don't. So when it's gone up between $6 and $8 from previously, so on a pallet, it's like $1,400 from what the previous cost was. So what I'd like today is get your approval to go ahead and order in another pallet of Pasture Guard, because we're just now coming into the season of where we need this chemical for application. If it's later in the year, I wouldn't even fuss with it, but we're just now coming to the time of season where we're really starting to need it.
And we sold a little bit more of that than early in the season than we anticipated, which has led to us needing to move forward with this order.
Yeah, in the last 3 years, we've sold 2 pallets. I had just over 2 pallets. I'm at a third of a pallet now. And like I say, we're just now coming into the season of needing it.
So how much of this do we use and how much of it do we resell?
We in-house, we probably don't use 1%. I don't use that chemical very much because there's other, I won't say better, more economical chemicals that we can use on our roadsides. So the majority of this we sell.
So
mean,
if we pay more, then we'll get more when we resell it. Yes, no?
Well, I mean, it's the cost to go on. I mean,
Fine, yeah. It's a-
yeah.
yeah.
We're not gonna make any more. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it's still, that's all still the same. It just, the cost of it is higher.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just pass it on to the farmers when
Yeah.
they buy.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, their input costs are going up across the board, just like ours are. We've seen some, folks aren't happy about it, but they understand and they need the product. Even with this price increase, we're still cheaper than they can purchase it anywhere else. It is a service to our community, and it's important that we have these chemicals on hand when folks come.
And it's not necessarily a service. I mean, it's state statute as a noxious weed department. We have to have chemicals for them to treat their noxious weeds. So, I mean, it's, our hands are tied, but I mean, we need to do it. I mean, well, we have to do it. So, I mean, because we have to offer chemical compliance with the noxious weeds we have in the county. So I have to order, I have to make sure I cover all the noxious weeds we have with at least, if one chemical did it, that's all I'd have to carry. Unfortunately, one chemical won't kill all of our noxious weeds.
Yeah, I know pasture guard is one of the most popular
It is.
pasture applications that we.
It is. It's a good
that we
chemical.
have right now.
It is.
so.
And that's why it's, $94.50 a gallon. I mean, it's a good chemical.
Yeah. Any other questions of,
No, it's just a typical thing we're facing. It's like I had a deal here a while back, and somebody tries to compare what our budgets and stuff were in 1997. And, Janet did a deal for me and run a bunch of numbers and stuff, and just, which I already knew, but it wasn't in print. It wasn't in black and white, but the cost of doing business is just, we can't go out of business. We got to keep in business. I mean, we can't go out of business. It's just another one of them things that
And like I say,
none of us want to face.
yeah, and that's what scares me. I mean, 2 months ago, my bids were 30 days. And I just got notification last week that all the supplies are down to 7 days bids now. And I can't blame them, but gosh, it makes it hard.
okay, just out of curiosity, at $94.50 a gallon, how many acres would that cover?
Well,
Just out of curiosity.
okay, the price that we're selling, the pasture guard we have right now, the left on the old price, my quote for in the air, it is 12 and a quarter an acre. Cost is what it costs for just the chemical for application. At this price, give me a second here, let me get my fingers working. We'll do 95.
Basically, seven to 8 acres.
Yeah. Well, 1235 or 12.
That jug will do 20 acres at a pint per acre. I mean, obviously later in the year, we have to go a little higher. So you're looking at cost, say $95, 95 times 2.5, that's 237. You're gonna be, just at the cost, is still about $12 an acre. And that's without the uptick,
$12 an acre or $20 an acre?
12,
12,
yeah,
okay.
12.
Okay, I was just curious. Anyway, positive motion, I make the motion to approve pasture guard HL chemical bid from Nutrien?
Nutrien,
Where's the T? It doesn't have a T. Solutions for $94.50 per gallon.
Motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson? Commissioner Waymire?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Pat.
thank you.
Before you leave,
Yes, sir.
a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I haven't heard anything about it, so I don't know if it's because we have lack of people or staff, but we're not doing the KDOT contract this year.
We haven't done the KDOT contract, I believe, 4 or 5 years now.
Now, are we doing it because it just costs more to do it, or we don't have the people to do it, or?
Today, right now, number one, we don't have the people,
Right.
which turns around, we don't have the time, of course. When I was here previously, we were doing it, but we had more people then. And then when the former weed director deceased, I guess after that's when they gave KDOT up. Several factors, one of them, I guess, and it's 68 highway is dangerous. New 59 is not so bad because it's wider, but 68 highway, I dreaded going out there and spraying it just because, I mean, you can be off as far as you can and they still don't slow down. It's dangerous. You're out there on foot and I mean, you're still all PPE'd up with your reflective stuff but it doesn't matter. But as far as now, there's just no possible way. I'm happy if I can get across all of our county roads as needed.
Commissioner Stottlemyre, that since I've been in this position, that is something that, when I looked at and I don't remember exactly how much we were charging KDOT for those services, but the time that we spent dealing with KDOT right-of-ways took us away from dealing with our own right-of-ways. And when we've got 1,000 miles of road, which means 2,000 miles of right-of-way of our own roads, plus all the bridges and all of those other things, I didn't feel like that it was a good use of our time to treat the state right-of-way, especially when you consider the safety aspects and the equipment. Some of those right-of-ways are best done on ATVs and those sorts of things. We don't have that kind of equipment. It just didn't seem like a
I
positive
just
thing
seen
for
our
us.
neighbor county that had done it. And I was just kind of curious. I knew what the answer probably was going to be.
Yeah, and then Coffee
If
County.
somebody would ask me that question, now I've got a good answer.
Right. And, Coffee County, they do theirs. I know Anderson County, he does most of theirs. But once again, they've got the staff to do it.
Okay.
And they don't have near the roadage that we do also.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, but that's why. I mean, I'd like to get out there and tackle it because it's a horrible mess. And it's just tough to try to get the state to take care of it because, I mean, they're like everything else, lack of money. So that's why we just try to keep it fought off of our place
So
as much
do
as we
they do
can.
it?
They contract somebody, they put bids out every year. I'm not sure who got the bid this year. But they only have certain X number of dollars allocated for certain district or for each district. So, and last year they came through and they did a very haphazard job and they didn't go all the way back to the right of ways. And I mean, cause it was wet and they couldn't get off, but they never came back through. And when I approached, well, hey, when they come back through, well, they're not. So.
We communicated with them
Yeah.
a couple of different times to spur them to take care of their issue.
And it's a fine line to where I can put the state on notice through the noxious weed law, but then they have X number of days to take care of it themselves. And then after that, I mean, it's just in a matter of old paperwork, and that's when Derek would get involved, and y'all would get involved. I can actually either I can go out and treat it myself and take care of it. Well, number one, I can't do it to begin with, so I can't do it if I have to go do it. I still don't have the manpower, or I can hire to have it done. But if they don't have the money, it's a nasty circle. Yeah, like I say, it's frustrating.
I know. Thank you.
You betcha.
Thank you, Pat. Staff reports, Derek, want to start us off?
Yeah, thanks, Roy. I have a few things this morning. First, and I'm catching you cold with this, so you don't have to make a decision today, but I do want to talk about it. The dispatch budget. As all of you know, the city of Ottawa contributes for half of our dispatch personnel costs. We anticipate the city of Wellsville starting to contribute next year. One of the challenges, and certainly we see it in all of our budgets, is budgeting personnel costs. We budget at full staff. We believe in dispatch that we will be fully staffed. My dispatch director, Sarah Peffley, has it rolling over there. Like, she's doing a great job. She's got a great group of dispatchers. So we think we're going to spend a lot of 23, hopefully fully staffed. But especially in this day and age, vacancies happen. And when vacancies happen, oftentimes our personnel costs don't end up being what we project them to be. Well, you look at this year with what we're trying to do, we're trying to budget for a increase outside of our pay plan, so that dispatch number's gonna jump. One of the things that Janet and I have talked about is, I think, one of the city's historical concerns has been, let's say that our personnel costs are $800,000. So they contribute $400. And then our actuals, after Rodney audits them, are 700,000. Well, at that point, the city's paid for 400,000 of it, the county's paid for 300. One thing that we have discussed that I wanted to get your input on is if that situation were to arise, would it be desirable or feasible, I guess, if we rebated back? And this would go for Wellsville too. So let's say it's $100,000 difference. If we rebated back 50 grand to the city so that they ultimately end up just paying 50% of the personnel costs. So we budget for 800, they contribute 4. If our actuals are only 7, then we would rebate back. I don't need a decision today, but I want to make sure you understand what it is that we're.
Yeah, we've had this come up several times, that we just hadn't come to the point of actual decision-making, I guess, is what you're asking. Maybe we might have to do. It's just right at the point you just said. You always gonna try and budget a little more than what you think. I mean, just the way it is. But I'm not enough into it. It takes Janet, the clerk, to tell us historically what's happened, and I think most of us been here long enough know that we try to stay under whatever's committed, but we've never approached the system, do you rebate back? Because instead of putting it all back in ours, does part of it go back?
Why would we
To the
not do it
other-
as a cash carryover like we do in all our other departments?
We do it as cash carryover, but then that benefits us. Then the city doesn't get that benefit of the cash carryover. And that's in the general fund, so it goes into an overall cash carryover situation. And it's not like road and bridge, where if we levy taxes or collect funds for road and bridge, it stays in road and bridge, and it only goes back to lowering what we collect in road and bridge the next year for those things. Dispatch is in our general fund budget, so it goes back into the general fund pool.
If dispatch was in its own budgeted fund, would it benefit the city then?
Yes, it could, but there's not,
It would lower the ask.
to my knowledge, there's no legal mechanism to put dispatch in its own fund.
Okay.
There has to be statutes
Okay.
set out to put funds into their own independent fund, and there's not any for dispatch that I'm aware of.
Okay, all right.
So, kind of makes common sense to possibly give them credit. Would it work the other direction? You go
There-
over, I'm talking about going over budget.
There's never been a time that we've gone over in dispatch because we budget to cover all the expenses that we have.
Yeah.
So, and it is mainly salaries that we're looking at. I mean, it is to some extent these other things. I mean, we do come in under budget in pretty much all areas of that. And to Colt's point, normally it would just go to cash carryover. It would go back into our general fund. But as we start having Wellsville contribute and Ottawa's contributing, we want to make it fair for everyone. So this is
Well-
just something we talked about.
And the reason we had this discussion is if we end up doing something with Wellsville, obviously, I want to memorialize all of that in writing. And so I would end up wanting to do the same with the city of Ottawa. So everyone's got the same agreement, and it just seemed like a logical time to bring it up. To speak to your point, Rod, while it's never happened, I would be absolutely willing, and I think it's prudent to put that language in there, that if for whatever reason we end up over on personnel costs, then those two entities would contribute their portion of the overage. But historically, we don't see that. And it has been historically under, but again, Sarah's, like I said, she's got it running well, and I think morale's pretty good over there. So, we'll have some vacancies. I don't know that any department across the county is gonna go a whole calendar year without vacancies. And we'll get it posted, but it takes time to fill vacancies. But this just, it gives assurances to both Wellsville and the city, like, yes, this is an increase, but if it doesn't come to fruition, then we'll rebate it back, or I think that's probably the best way to do, as opposed to lowering the ask the following year. Like, I think it's probably cleaner to just rebate it.
Fair's fair, it doesn't go our way, so.
Well, that's not a possibility, carrying it forward and not allocating.
Well, I think for the reasons Janet just explained, it gets kind of complicated trying to lower the ask the following calendar year. And I think Rodney would tell you that it'd just be a cleaner mechanism, just to, we'll get our actuals. Rodney's here now, right?
Yes.
So we
Yep.
normally get our actuals this time of year. So this would be the time of year that we would, around here, issue the rebate, and then,
Right, I think what we've done in the past is every year in January, we set an amount and a time frame that the city is gonna pay. We had done it quarterly. They, in the last couple of years, have switched to doing it a monthly payment. So we take their amount, we divide that out monthly, and we say, this is what you're going to pay. Since Rodney is here doing the audit, we wouldn't know until May or June what the adjusted amount would be. So if we were going to lower their amount down, then we're saying, oh, okay, well, for the first 5 or 6 months, you're paying this, and then we're gonna readjust, and then so like Derek said, it's just a cleaner way of doing it
Well, you could
to,
get into a situation too, if you rebated it, where it becomes cyclical. It'd start, if you had a big rebate one year, the next year you wouldn't levy as much taxes. And then the year after that, if you had to go back to what it actually cost, I mean, if it costs, round numbers, $1 million to run it, you got a $400,000 rebate, you're only levying $600,000 this year. The next year, you need $1 million, that's what it costs to run the thing, right? So you've only levied 60% of what you need, well, then your levy goes up, and then you can get, it
and
makes
I'm
it
not,
more
and,
difficult to keep a consistent, fair level tax.
and I've never been inclined to say this is the way we've always done it. So once we start this is the way it has to be, because this is the way we've always done it. I mean, it's definitely something that, if this is an action that you guys want to take, you're in favor of this and being good partners with Wellsville and the city of Ottawa, then we can definitely work through this and see what works best for everyone involved, so.
but I think to your point, Cole, your concern would be best addressed by doing it via rebate.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
opposed to a
Because you can
carry.
take that and put it into a capital account, I mean, you can plan next year, but
Yeah,
we're not making their budget cyclical, they,
right,
Right.
right, yeah, okay.
actions we do could go to the cities and adversely affect them if we come in under budget, because then it throws off their.
Right. So do any of you object to us, because they've asked us to come present the budget, any of you object to us proposing that as an option? And we'll refine the details of it. All of that will come back before you. I just want to, just generally the idea of it, are you okay with
I
it?
think it's the right way to do it.
Sounds
So
fair.
the cleanest way is just to give a rebate back.
Yeah, I believe that to be the case. Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Couple of other things. I believe it was on January 26th. You approved a lease with the Historical Society to move into the Visitor Center. We didn't have, that lease never got executed because we didn't have a firm start date. Well, the start date is today, and my understanding is Diana Starsnick-Dean's going to execute that lease this morning, come get her keys, and of course, I'll have Commissioner Dunn sign it on behalf of the board, but that's just an update. So that process is moving. They'll start moving in and that will be the end of this saga. I think the volunteers have adjusted pretty well. The feedback I've gotten is that they've adjusted well to their portion of the space, and so I think the next update I will give will be once they're moved out. And then, you know, a discussion will need to be had about what becomes of Crestview there. What do you want to see done? But that process is started and they're taking possession today. Any questions on that?
They're gonna keep electricity in their building out there, right?
Out at
Where they're at
Crestview?
now, their storage building.
Yeah. I
So
believe that.
are they gonna pay their electric bill on that building, or?
Well, they have been historically, right?
Well, I thought it was just a percentage of the total bill, but
Yeah,
you didn't specify out.
it's part,
Are we gonna shut the main building off, is what I'm saying?
I don't believe we can. I think that they're all tied together and we just get one bill for it. And so I don't think that we can shut the building off without shutting their building off. And also, we still have some stuff in Crestview that I think Brandon's working on trying to find alternate homes and stuff, but we still have stuff out there.
I guess the only other question, I don't remember it being in the contract, but, or we told them they can't use that upstairs for office facility.
Yeah, they're aware of that.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, you guys recently approved, the executive coordinator position. This will be the third meeting that I've said this, but that's not a new position. I'm not adding staff. This will replace the administrative coordinator. This will ultimately lead to efficiencies in HR. We've gotten a bunch of applicants, a bunch, and several intriguing ones. And so, very pleased with how that's going. I think we're gonna potentially have some options there. And as of last night, they were still coming in. So I'm optimistic about what that looks like. And then, yeah, I said this earlier, but still got a lot of work to do on the budget. We're gonna have an ARPA discussion soon. And one of the things that is kind of pushing that forward is, you know, the potential to defease bonds and pay off debt, in other words. That could also free up some operating money in each budget that would allow us to do some other things. And so that is right on the horizon. But I think that's all I have, Roy.
Okay, thank you. Dustin, do you have anything for us today? Kenny, you got, uh-oh, Kenny got something.
So just had two quick items. I'm assuming some of you probably were aware that Ron Johnson passed away early May. He was a member of our Board of Zoning Appeals. So right now we are down two individuals on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Still currently down one person on the Planning Commission, but I did have an individual that came in last week and actually expressed interest. And so I'm going to reach back out to him to see if he would be willing to go ahead and submit a request to you guys to be considered for the Planning Commission. And I believe that he's out in the Pomona area, so I think it would actually give us some good, spread out some of our membership a little bit also throughout the county. So hopefully we'll have something coming to you on that here before too long. And then the other one, I know that Don will probably talk about it, but went to the Adopt the Bike ribbon cutting for RC&D this last week, and I just appreciate everything that Don does with that program. I know he puts a lot of work into it, and it was good going out and seeing the new container for the storage of all the bikes and everything. I think it'll look really nice and hopefully serve our community well, so.
Well, hope we can find some more people to volunteer for the,
Yep, yeah,
just
we'll
rewards.
keep working on it. Hopefully we can get everybody filled up here, so.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thanks, Kenny.
Now, or Sheriff, or,
Good morning. I want to provide a couple updates to you. Our jail project, that shower project that we were talking about previously, where things are moving on there. We've signed the contract with Lloyd Builders to do all that. Costs have gone up a little bit, just I think basically because I think it's stainless steel. It's getting a little bit outrageous, but we're still on track, and that everything that we need for that project is still going to be paid out of the jail trust fund. So we do have that. At the beginning of the meeting, Chairman, you've talked a little bit about the victims down in Uvalde, Texas. I just want to let the board know, and I've let Derek know. We've had two school districts, now there's two school districts that have reached out to us about an SRO thing. We understand that that's nothing that we can, we're not in a place to take on a lot of extra personnel expense. They are researching on their end. There's more grants that are available now for school safety, and so we're talking to them to see what we would essentially what they're looking at, and we're very early on in this, but they would secure funding to take care of those positions, and then we would just fill those positions and put people, the school resource officers in their schools. Very early on, we don't know what that's going to turn out with, and we don't know what their grants are going to look like and what their willingness to do is going to be. So that I wanted just to let the board know that that was something that has been in discussion before that happened. And again, I understand our position where we are, and the school districts do as well. But it's just conversations that we are having there. I also wanted to let you guys know that some of the, you talked about 911 and how you guys have that, there's that partnership with the city. Are still continue to have our partnership with the city. We have with the police department, the sheriff's office, we have the STAR team, which is our SWAT team. We've added 2 more deputies to that team recently. We've also expanded this out so that the Wellsville Police Department is also players in these partnerships. And then we still have our drug enforcement unit that is a joint unit together, and our the crash team to do those things. So we have a good partnership with the police department in those areas. And again, we are expanding to try to get Wellsville more involved in those, as that part of the county is growing significantly, and we wanted them to have a little bit more activity and involvement in that. And then I also wanted to let you know that we still are part of the Northeast Kansas Drug Task Force, which is us, Johnson County and Miami County. We're seeing a lot of success there as well with that program, and we believe that our involvement in that has helped us down here significantly by having those additional resources and then investigations that can help cut things off before they actually get into our county. So I just wanted to provide an update to the board this morning on that. And that's all I have, unless any of you have questions for me. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dustin, do you have anything? David, any more? All right.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So due to that rain that we've had the last couple of weeks, our road and bridge crews have been focused on taking care of the problems that arise whenever we have this kind of weather. I think the investment that we've made the last few years in upsizing a lot of the crossroad tubes and those sorts of things are paying dividends, but we still have problems out there that that we are addressing and that we will continue to address as the weather permits. That being said, we have been able to do a couple of small ditching and crossroad tube projects, kind of between rain showers. The wind over the weekend caused several trees to come down, and so we had personnel that worked several hours on Saturday, and then they were out again for a tree that fell across the road about 3 o'clock. It'd be Tuesday morning, so yesterday morning we had guys out for several hours trying to take care of that and get it off the roadway. So that's how we've been spending most of our time on the road and bridge side. Once things start drying out again, we'll start addressing work orders and hopefully get into some construction, rebuilding some gravel roads this year. On the solid waste side of things, we are fully staffed at the recycling center as of last Thursday. The first time in a year, probably. Yeah, so almost a year that we've had a full complement of folks over there. Once we get the new people trained up, hopefully we'll be able to get our services a little more back to normal.
David, can I pause you there
Yes,
for
sir.
just a second? And we increased the recycling tech positions, their starting salary by, was it $2 an hour?
Roughly, yes, sir.
And I want to pause just to let you guys reflect on, like, they are fully staffed now. We're going to be having discussions about, paying off debt. And I've heard comments like, well, that's not fun. Like, that's, there's these projects that we can do. Okay, but paying off debt frees up operating revenue that we could then use to put towards raises for other departments. And when we increase the pay, that's going to help us get people in so that we can get back to full staff. We've had requests for new personnel, like, well, that hurts our ability to give more to the people that we currently have. So just know that Public Works, is a perfect model for what we're trying to do for the whole county. It's get our pay to a point where we're competitive so that we don't have the retention issues that we've been facing across the county. And I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. To piggyback on that, just for instance, before we did the pay increase for the Public Works employees, we had 8 open positions. Last week, we interviewed for 3 more, and we made job offers to 3 more people. And so, and they're in various processes of getting through the onboarding process to come to work for us. But if all 3 of those folks enter, plus what we've had, we'll just be down to 2 or 3 openings. And so I feel really good about that. We are, getting more applicants. We're getting applicants that show up to the interviews, which was a challenge. And we've been able to hire some folks. So all of that is positive. So real quick, on the transfer station, we're having some difficulty with Ham's landfill. Lo and behold, they're having staffing and equipment issues as well. That's impacting their ability to bring us trailers so that we can move the trash that comes in the way that it needs to. Pat and I are going to be reaching out to them and hopefully meet with them this week to kind of talk through some of those issues and toss around some options to limit the problems and the issues that arise because of these things. So we're working on that. Dust control and the kilo patching project, both of those projects are done. I would say that the kilo project, the patching and the overlay really improved our roads and our infrastructure. That being said, we've got a lot more to go. Many other areas of the county need similar treatment, and we will look for opportunities to fund those projects going forward. Also, Derek mentioned the Public Works facility, the shop area. Last week, I met with several hours with representatives of Bartlett West, the consultant that's working on that. They had a group of architects and engineers that came down, and we walked through all of the facilities, looked at the recycling, talked about what we plan to do there, and they are in the process of developing a scope for us to consider at some point down the road as we continue this slow, methodical march towards having a plan that we can then follow for years to come. And so that's in process. Our second service truck. I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. We do have possession of that. And the sign truck that we've been waiting for a year will be here on Friday. So we are excited about that. And then Kenny mentioned it, but the turnout on Friday for several of you were there for the ribbon cutting for the new cargo container. I thought that was very well attended. The weather was beautiful that day, so we are very thankful for that. That's all I've got.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I just have one quick thing for you guys. Yesterday, we got information on the KAC conference. It'll be held October 17th through the 19th, 2022, and that's at the Sheridan again, up in the city. Amy was able to get rooms in the Sheridan this year, so the rooms are booked already for that. So just get that on your calendar so you guys can plan to attend if you'd like.
Busy day, maybe, down there at the clerk's office.
Yes, today is the last day to file for office at noon. We still have a lot of our clerk positions for our townships that have not been filed for. We've already seen someone in this morning for precinct committee person, so we expect we'll see several more of those. The only races that the deadline was extended for was our congressional seat at our state school board and our state house seats. So those have been extended to June 10th at noon, but everything else is today.
Okay, commissioners, Don?
This is kind of off the wall a little bit. Paul's not here, but I thank him. I got an email from him just to let me know the towns in my district that he is reminding them that they need to file for the second half of their ARPA funds, and be surprised. It takes somebody like him to kind of, remember you got to do this, especially when you don't have staff and everything else to take care of those kinds of things. So I appreciate him doing that. We did the ribbon cutting on the cargo container. Got to thank Pat and David and Casey, especially too. Did a lot of work to help us put this on. And everybody's got to remember this cargo container is owned by Franklin County. If our project with the Black Book of ever quit, they'll have the nice container ready to go, all set and put in there. So, and it's full right now. We just got our first shipment. I went up with our driver, got our first shipment from Lansing prison, our first one up there, trip to Lansing. And I told the crowd up there, the gentleman up there, when we picked them up, they done a real nice program up there. Their bikes don't sit outside that we bring in. They actually have them in a used building. So they don't sit, they get that. And the guy that was there told me he wouldn't be there when I come back the next time. He's getting out the next week after 21 years. And 20 of them he spent in the bike shop. They're doing it. So he was very proud of what he had something to do rather than sit inside a room somewhere, So that's about all I got.
Last Thursday, I had a hospital board. Every 2 years, the hospital has a joint commission come in and do a thorough check of, one commission comes in and checks the lab, and then one commission comes in and checks at the hospital. And last week was the commission for the lab, and they don't even have a lab director right now, but they actually had a very good result from that joint commission coming in. So they were glad about that. On Friday, I listened to the last legislative update that the KAC gives out. And one of the most intriguing things that they said that kind of came in that last week of when the legislature came back was a suicide hotline that is going to be available, I believe, in July. I don't remember, is it you know what it is, Dustin? Is it 611? Anyway, it's going to be available information. So if you know somebody that struggles with that, something that will be available across the state. I did go to the RC&D open house, and somebody said, it's a great program. It keeps the bikes out of the landfill. It gives the people at the penitentiary or at the jail, a sense of esteem, and it gives kids who need bikes. So it's a win-win-win situation. Last thing, Dr. Gollier, I saw, is going to have a reception of his retirement reception next Friday. So 42 years.
Dr.
serving in the
Ransom.
Community, so.
Ransom.
I'm sorry, Dr. Ransom. Yeah, Dr. Ransom is going to have a retirement reception, 42 years.
And it's in here. Is it
In here.
noon? Is
I
that?
think it's 11 to 1:30, I think I saw, or something like that. But anyway, congratulations to him.
June 10th.
Yep, that's all I got.
Okay, I went to the cargo ribbon cutting, but Don didn't mention, he was awarded Commissioner of the Year. I can't remember now which year it was, for
14.
2014 at our conference down in Wichita, for all his efforts to get that program going and sustaining. So he should have mentioned that when he was giving his presentation. But anyway, we appreciate all that Don's done in the last 20 years over that bike program for the people. 8,000 bikes taken in, 4,000 given out. Pretty amazing. So thank you, Don. I don't have anything else. Anybody else have anything? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say yes. We're adjourned.
Thank you.